In this episode,
James and Suj in Planet FPL Data Shocker.
The Fantasy Football Show.
Hello listeners and welcome to episode 4 of Planet FPL, season number 3. My name's Suj.
My name is James.
Pre-season is finally wrapping up, James.
Yeah, man, it kicks off in 8 days. 8 days.
8 days. Don't count the last day. That's the last day of school fever. 7 days to go. And how are you feeling about your draft?
I'm feeling good. I could have done without the rumours of Laporte missing game week 1 because it means a whole potential reshuffle for me.
Why don't you just move from Laporte to Walker or something?
Already got Walker as well.
Oh, okay, fine. Zinchenko, who happens to be everybody's favourite.
Maybe. I'm just convinced if I'm going for 5 at the back, I'm going for 5 at the back. I'm not cutting any corners. Otherwise, I'll go 4 at the back.
Interesting. But you're happy with your draft, not tinkering too much?
A little bit, because if Laporte's out, then I think I'll start with a back 4 rather than a back 5.
Right, okay.
Which means I then need to look for someone in and around the sort of 6.5 million valuation that I like, and there isn't really anyone in sort of the midfield area.
Fair play. I haven't been tinkering much, I'll be honest with you. My back 5, as in 4 defenders, goalkeeper, and Sterling has been solid for ages. Kane and Aubameyang have played a bit of hokey-cokey in and out, but Kane's in at the moment. Wilson's still in. The move I made was I got rid of McGoldrick based on the advice from FPL_Blade Tomo. There's a lot of talk about rotation up the top there for Sheffield United. So McGoldrick went and I replaced him with Haller. And so that meant downgrading one of my midfielders. But Ceballos has come in at a really cheap price at 5.5 million. So yeah, that's the only tweaks at the moment. But I'm sitting back and going to wait until Wednesday next week now before I get really, really technical. I'm still debating downgrading Sterling to Kevin De Bruyne and then giving myself 2.5 million to spend elsewhere. I'm still debating leaving Kane out and going with Aubameyang. But there's not that many other kind of thoughts running through my minds at the moment.
No, and I think there's plenty we're going to do on this pod, which means it's going to link to things that we're thinking in any
Exactly,
case.
Yeah, exactly that. But yeah, 7 days to go. Exciting times.
What are we doing today?
So today you went to the trouble and effort of asking all of our correspondents for a bunch of predictions about 2019-2020 season. So league position. So we've asked them to rank the table 1 to 20 as we did last season. We asked them for the top point scorer for each team, top value pick for each team, and then a bunch of other questions. Who's going to be the best top point scoring player, 7.5 to 5.5 million rated? Top goal scorer for the season, it's a golden boot. Top assists for the season. Anything else?
First manager to get sacked.
First manager to get sacked.
And most goals and most clean sheets by team outside the top 6.
Okay, fair play. That's a fair amount of data to chunk through. And you've been through all of the data and compiled it into one definitive set of results.
This is Planet FPL. I'm just showing the YouTubers rarity. There's actually data being brought into me and Suj's podcast.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any of this data. As we did last year, you've compiled it. So I'm going to be guessing blind and you're going to be backing up with what the correspondents think is going to happen next season.
I think the best way we'll do this is we'll run through how they predicted the table, top to bottom, and we'll run through bits of the teams from there. Agreed.
Where are we going to start, top or bottom?
Start at the top, Serge, and tell everyone who you think will win the Premier League.
Manchester City.
How many of... And what I should probably clarify is I sourced data from all 20 of our fan correspondents.
Yep.
FPL Canal and Tinkerman. FPL Canal supports Sheffield Wednesday, so is neutral. Tinkerman supports Fulham, so is neutral. Mm-hmm. And also our Huddersfield correspondent, FPL Terriers, contributed to this as well. So it's 23 responses in all.
You haven't added your responses?
I've not added mine, so I've just kept it completely fair based on their response.
Yep.
There's one response for each club plus the 3 neutrals.
Correct.
How many of the 23 do you think have predicted Man City to win the league?
23. No surprise there.
23, yeah.
I'll tell you what, people do say that the season's not going to be as close as it was last season with Liverpool. The only caveat to it, because I did think twice about it, was the Champions League. City are going to want to win the Champions League. That's their last thing on their list that they really, 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 really need to tick off. And so I could see them potentially taking their eye off the league a little bit. But their strength and depth is a joke, and they've brought in reinforcements in areas that they needed reinforcement, like Rodri. I don't know so much about Angelino, but Rodri is definitely going to help with Fernandinho getting less minutes. I can't see past City, and Kevin De Bruyne back for a whole season is like having a new signing, who happens to be the best midfielder in the league.
So they've Foden a year older.
Yeah, Leroy Sané, for all intents and purposes, right now is still there. And there's only a week to go if he is going to make his move to Bayern Munich. And I don't see deals like that happening in a rush.
For City now, I could only see him adding a centre-half if they were to do any other business. Otherwise, I suspect the season they'll start with John Stones. I think at times, if they don't buy a centre-half, I think I saw Rodri in the Asia Trophy game against Wolves.
Yeah.
Quite similar to Busquets in a lot of ways. Just very simple. He's positionally sound. He just gives it to the more attacking players and gets on with it. I can see Fernandinho at times dropping into centre half this year. Is one of the things that makes me really cautious about John Stones, who I know our City correspondent at FPL Pringle thinks Stones will probably get the nod to start the season
with Laporte.
Well, if Laporte's not fit, then I guess they'll start with Stones and Otamendi.
Yep.
It's not great because then there's nothing beyond that.
Yeah.
But it's still City, right? They're going to have the ball 70% of the time.
Yeah, and sometimes even more. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by that at all. Top point scorer for City. Are we going to come back to that later?
No, we'll go into it.
Raheem Sterling.
Yeah, massively.
He's classified as a midfielder, so he's picking up the 20 clean sheets points that they're going to get, plus the extra point for goals over Sergio Aguero. I don't see how you can look past Raheem Sterling, so it's pretty nailed on there.
Well, what's interesting, obviously, Sterling and Aguero both valued at 12.
Correct.
Aguero's not in. You don't see him in many drafts, but sort of outside the Twitter community, he is knocking about in teams.
Yes.
And other than obviously he went to the Copa America, there is a thought at the moment that Sterling is going to start game week 1 up front. So I don't know if that skews some of the thinking somewhat. And obviously, Sterling's consistency. With Sterling, you got to get on and off at the right times, I think.
Correct.
He does go through patches of dry spells, and then he goes through spells where he feels like he becomes a must. 21 of the 23 respondents went for Sterling, predicted to be City's top FPL point scorer. Only 2 for Aguero, and no votes for anyone else.
2 went for Aguero, hey? Okay, and I can see that. I mean, Aguero is such a consistent machine. But it's the extra points for clean sheets and the extra points for goals. You're talking about if they scored 20 goals and 20 clean sheets, that's 40 points plus the BPS. I also think Aguero is at risk of a bit more rotation because they've got probably one of the top 5 strikers in the league in Jesus there sitting there, so he's going to want to get more minutes. And he's very clinical as Jesus.
Yeah, his finishing numbers are good when you compare him at sort of like minutes played, etc. It comes out absolutely fine, Jesus. The problem is you're never going to look at him because no guarantees of starters. You would only... He's the sort of guy you need to know Aguero's out for 2 months and you go and look. Like.
Correct.
And then obviously at his price, he becomes very, very viable.
Yeah.
You can't look in at otherwise.
Budget pick?
Johnny went for Sterling for that. Interestingly, just to clarify sort of on the value. Now, when I asked the guys for the value, I specifically said to them, don't measure it on any metric. Just literally judge it. Who do you think is the best value pick in the club? Because I knew if I went down the route of saying do it on points per million, we'd end up sitting here with a lot of goalkeepers and stuff.
Yeah.
Particularly on the lower clubs, right?
Yeah.
So I said just judge it however you think best value. And usually when you'll see this further down the line with the other teams, there's one that's come out who's got quite a high price. You'd almost argue is a premium, who came out clear front runner in this. It's De Bruyne.
Okay.
And De Bruyne's really is so interesting because you can look at all the, say like Tom's brilliant article that he did recently on who got the assist site in terms of value, etc., metrics comparing it to new prices and last season and stuff. Like De Bruyne won't get a mention in, I don't know how many words that was. It was a fucking lot.
Yeah.
De Bruyne will never get a mention. But then we all remember, right? This guy is capable of the 20-odd assists the season before on that. And knowing how deadly he can be. And yet...
He's a 200-point-a-season player, give or take.
At his value, you're probably rarely going to captain him, I would say. If you've got a Sterling or Aguero, you would captain them ahead of De Bruyne.
Correct.
with him, you've always got the safety of the starts, I think. In spite of the recent injury problems, he's an absolute shoo-in for me at the moment.
At the price, he really, really is. I couldn't argue with that. I would have potentially gone with Kyle Walker as the value pick, but I do agree that Kevin De Bruyne at that price is the better value. Kyle Walker's been a 150 to 160 point player consistently for a number of seasons. Last year was his lowest return on assists for ages. It was only 3 last year, but prior to that, it was always 5, 6, 7 assists that he was picking up. So Kyle Walker would have been the one for me. And also Kyle Walker rarely gets dropped or rotated as well. He plays a lot of minutes.
The only other City player who got more than 2 votes on this was Zinchenko, who is obviously picking up.
He's cheap, isn't he?
Yeah, and at the moment it looks solid enough. I think they're saying Mendy's kind of approaching being back into training. I don't know what that means. For me, it just feels like waiting for a problem to happen.
Yeah.
I've already said on previous pods, I judged Angelino quite quickly and don't think he's a good player. Whether it's going to be Zinchenko or Mendy once Mendy gets up to fitness is going to be, as Johnny said previously in some of his tweets, it will be dependent on how he wants his fullbacks to play.
Mm-hmm.
And if Sane does leave, it just adds more weight back to Mendy, I think.
Yep.
So Zinchenko to me just feels like a problem waiting to happen, but I completely understand why people are going down that route. It does feel obvious at the moment. You're looking at going, fullback, attack, any fullback at City is an attacking fullback, right?
Yep.
You're looking at 5.5 and going, yeah,
yep.
I think so. So I completely understand why they're looking that way. Bernardo Silva's back in my squad at the moment.
He is,
as kind of my City replacement for Laporte, shoving things around. So I think he's going to have a top season.
Bernardo Silva for sure. There was a lot of uproar that he didn't get into the FIFA awards, didn't he?
Yeah. Harry Kane was in it, wasn't he? for turning up for about 10 games.
Yeah, exactly.
Bernardo's
not a bad shout. Let's move on to second place in the league. West Ham?
Yeah, Coulthard, yeah, absolutely.
Liverpool, obviously, a clear front runners to be second.
And how many of the 23 voted Liverpool second?
23.
What? Yeah, it was. Yeah. What I should also say is I've taken out the predictions that the guys did for their own clubs.
Okay.
Obviously, at this stage, doesn't matter. But Dan did say that he thinks Liverpool will finish second. I don't know if there's a little bit of undervaluing in that perspective for Liverpool at the moment because they haven't bought anyone really.
That was one of the reasons why I didn't go with Liverpool, but they didn't need to reinforce anywhere really.
That 11's so difficult to improve, isn't it?
Of
you
course,
got people
and
like
they got strength in depth.
Chamberlain coming back to fitness.
Yep.
And you got youngsters hanging around like obviously Brewster's breaking through. Harry Wilson scored a terrific goal for them yesterday.
Shaqiri Lallana got limited minutes last year. They're always options.
The squad
if you
depth's
need
there.
them.
We just think generally they need a backup left back for Robertson.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So difficult to improve on them.
I don't think there's going to be much between them and City again this year. It's going to be less than 4 or 5 points, but it's going to be tight.
I just feel it will be really difficult for Liverpool to maintain that consistency again. A lot of people are highlighting the pre-season form's not been great. There's not been many clean sheets in that pre-season. I'm still sitting on the 3 defensive VAR. It doesn't concern me, the pre-season lack of goals.
Yeah.
The amount of goals going in the net for them. If you take any component out of that Liverpool back line, it's a problem. And the main 2 components are Alisson and Van Dijk, because that's the spine, right? If Mignolet plays in goal, all of them Liverpool defensively become a worry for me.
Yeah.
If Van Dijk gets injured, all of them become a worry. Robertson and Alexander-Arnold, obviously,
you get them for the attacking returns, right?
A little bit, yeah. But in terms of their overall expectation, or say the clean sheets, etc., which is still your baseline starting point, right? Liverpool got, what was it, 21 clean sheets
21.
last year?
21 or 22? 21.
The chances are the guys at the back will get more clean sheets than attacking returns.
Yeah.
You would think. So that still needs to be the starting point. If Van Dijk or Alisson were to get injured, that's massive, massive problems. Liverpool can't afford that in the way that, say, City coped without De Bruyne last year, I think.
Yeah, you say that. I mean, Liverpool still did score a lot of goals, but there was quite a few games where they just got over the line. And it really came down to just a handful of, a couple of points at the end of the season. Who was the top point scorer? I'm gonna say Salah, obviously, because he's been the top point scorer in the game for the last 2 years, so there's no reason It's not like he's aged in any way. He's still only 26 or whatever he is.
Yeah, everyone.
Fresh.
Everyone voted for Salah.
AFCON, he's going to be all right.
And also, the one where I think you might have got the competition, Mane at the moment is out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yes.
I think over the course of the whole season, he might push Salah eventually.
Again, I agree with you on that, but I think you can't really look at him until game week 3 or 4, and that's when you're wildcarding to bring him in.
I think anybody who was in the latter stages of the AFCON is a serious risk.
Yeah.
Even people like Zaha, who didn't, I mean, there's so much still not going on with him, for example. I think they're all avoidable.
Yep. And then the best value pick at Liverpool, I'd probably say, I'm going to go with Trent Alexander-Arnold at 7 million. I think the assists, you feel it. I feel he's going to be a real big player this year. 220 points.
Yeah.
220 points.
On the value perspective, just to kind of highlight what's said about Liverpool defensively, 10 votes for TAA, 6 for VVD, 3 for Robertson, 2 for Gomez,
Okay.
5.5, who it seems we think is probably going to get the nod over Matip.
Yep.
1 for Alisson. And the only other one was Firmino.
Oh, I'm not feeling Firmino. I think he's a really important player for Liverpool's team and the way they play. But just from an FPL point of view, I think he's struggled for a while now. He hasn't really got the attacking returns. And he's, compared to his price bracket, when you've got Vardy or Lacazette, who I know is injured right now, but you're just not going to go with Firmino, are you?
No.
The only reason you go with Firmino is if you feel like you want 3 Liverpool and you can't fit anyone else in because you can't afford Mane or Salah. But then
you go defensively. We said
not really a reason to buy
we said on
him.
the last pod. I think at the moment you are choosing from 4 players.
I'm sitting on 3 Liverpool at the moment.
The VAR at the back and the Salah. I mean, anybody who doesn't go start with the 3. I mean, whichever way you do it, well, not whichever way. Most people are going to go for Salah plus 2 defensive.
Yes.
At the moment, I'm taking a different route. Yeah, of course, it's going to be a little bit through my eyes what Salah could do on that opening day. Mm-hmm. But outside of those 4 players, I can understand a few people looking at Gomez. My advice would be, do you know what? Once he's got a run in the team and you know that and it's comfortable, particularly if he's playing centre-half, okay, you might want to think about making that $1 million or $1.5 million savings somewhere. But the advice is go big on them.
Mm-hmm. What's the third on the table is going to be Spurs. I'm going with Tottenham as who I think are going to finish third. As things stand right here, right now. We spoke at the end of the season when we were kind of doing a wrap-up or starting our pre-season, whatever you want to call it. You had in your mind that there were so many players available for transfer from Spurs that you didn't know would be there next season. Other than Trippier so far, Eriksen's still there, Dele's still there, Lamella's still there, Danny Rose is now back in the squad and playing. So you haven't lost anyone. If anything, you've added Ndombele, which gives you better strength in holding midfield. So Spurs are still a force to be reckoned with. The only issue you have is if Harry gets injured, then you're reliant on Son or Moura, which are not bad replacements, don't get me wrong, but you don't have an out-and-out second striker. That's the only issue that Spurs have. But I can easily see Spurs... Alderweireld still there, Vertonghen's still there, Lloris is still there. You haven't lost anyone that you thought you might lose.
Is this the bit where I cut you up and go, the guys didn't vote Spurs third?
Go for it, but I'm voting Spurs third.
Yeah, it was. This worried me.
They did vote Spurs third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
22, or if we take out Ricky Saunders, our Spurs correspondent, if we take out his prediction, 21 of the 22 think Spurs will finish third.
Correct.
That astonished me. I don't know if it's harder for me to judge because I'm on the inside or something like that. But I look at it and go, well, in the second half of last season, we finished 12th.
Yeah.
And all right, there's a Champions League distraction, as there was obviously for Liverpool in the preceding season.
And the gap between Liverpool and yourselves started widening, and at that point it became... You got sucked more into the top 4 race, I agree. But there is no way... If you did a table, you finished 12th. Where did Arsenal and
they were all
United
shit as well,
exactly.
yeah.
So
like 8th or 9th or something.
Exactly. So it's not really... It's in the context of the other teams. I'm looking at Spurs against Arsenal, City, Man United, and I think you're still the best of those 4. So that's why I think you finished third.
I need to have a little Spurs rant because I've had quite a few questions over the last 24 hours or so.
Go on then.
So woke up yesterday morning and Levy out was trending. Like the first thing is take no notice.
On Twitter?
It's just Twitter bollocks.
Yeah. That's not going to
be Twitter bollocks. Is people getting agitated because...
About what?
about I've said on this pod, I think there'll be a lot of ins and outs. Now, it's a week to go, and that looks like that's not necessarily going to be the case. Foyth got a bad injury last night, which now it leaves us with Walker Peters and Ori at right back. People are panicking. It's all right.
What, only 2 players?
Yeah, it's fucking hell.
It's a hard
Foyth
life.
Foyth looked like he did his Achilles tendon last night, and if that's what happened, it's the same as what happened to Hudson-Odoi. He will be lucky to play this calendar year. So that's potentially a problem. We've still got 2 players there. I said in the last pod, if KWP starts the season, I don't have a problem with that. Key change from Spurs in the last 48 hours playing in the Saudi Cup in Munich is a change of formation. So in the games in Asia, we played 4-3-1-2 with 2 out-and-out centre forwards, so someone always with Kane. In the last 2 days, in both games, we played 4-2-3-1. Interchanging of the 3 behind the 1 front man. Be it, it started with Mora yesterday, but obviously if it's going to be 1 up front, that's Kane. The important thing to say is that's good news for Kane, to have the support of the 3 behind rather than 1 with him and only 1 behind. It allows us interchange into areas where we can get into wide areas, and also as a better link. 4-3-2-1 suits Kane much better. In my opinion, it suits the team much better as well. It's good news for a couple of FPL assets. It's bad news for a couple. The first person it's bad news for is Lucas Moura. Lucas Moura is currently back out of my draft, because if that's how we're going to go, Kane's going to play up front, Moura's going to play in a wide area. He's not going to get the potential returns that he might do in that area as he would at forward.
He still get returns though, Lucas Moura, and he's still £7.5 million.
But so
he's in a very different price bracket than some of the other players.
It's gone from being potentially an out of position, great game week 1 punt with Son's suspension, to being, he's a good price and he's possible for attacking returns, and it's still just a 1 week punt. So for me, it would be out. The 2 people that it's really positive for, if we go that way, is Ali, back in the 10 role close to Kane, and Eriksen. They'll interchange. Obviously, if he stays, I don't know if he is or he won't. But the closer it gets, the more likely he is to stay, isn't it?
There's not a lot of rumours around, and there's not a lot of talk of where he potentially could go.
That said, come Sunday, we might go back to the 4-3-1-2. I suspect what he's done is he's drilled them in the 2 formations. I think probably most likely he would play the 4-2-3-1 against Villa opening day, and then he'll want to go with that solid block of 3 away to Man City in game week 2. And in which case, Moura will probably play up front in game week 2. That's no good to you.
Nah, not against City. That's no point.
That would be my thoughts. On Monday, I'll talk about, after we play Inter on Sunday, I'll talk about it a bit more in terms of likely first 11. But yeah, Eriksen and Ali, if we're going to play that way and if they stay, consider again.
Interesting. So top point scorer for Tottenham is going to be Kane.
Yeah, everyone.
Regardless, he's just been so consistent apart from the last season with injuries. Best value pick at Spurs. That's an interesting one. That's a very interesting one. I'm going to go Ben Davies.
No, it was Moura.
Okay.
Bear in mind, guys, that all these responses that we had from the correspondents all came back to me no later than early Monday.
Yeah.
So some of these responses were sent back to me as early as
and
like
also,
last Thursday.
A lot of the correspondents are not going to be watching Spurs' formations and lineups. And Moura still is
If you'd have asked me at the start of this week, before these last 2 games, I would have probably said, yeah, Lucas Moura. I just feel when we play 4-2-3-1, we are a much more attacking, potent threat. Mm-hmm. We play a quicker game. When Lamella plays, and I'm not saying that he will play opening day, we press. We get in people's faces. Lamella instigates that. So we will play a different style of football depending on whether Lamella does or doesn't play, because he's the best at it. I don't think he probably will start. I think as it would stand now, probably opening day, it would be Kane up front, Moura right, Eriksen left, Ali at 10.
Let's see. 4th in the league. Gooners. I think Arsenal finished 4th this year, especially with the signing of Pepe.
It's a big signing.
I think it's one of those where now you've got 2 proven goal scorers in Aubameyang and Lacazette. Pepe had 30-something returns last year, 23 goals, 15 assists or whatever it was. That second number's definitely wrong, but it was more than 30-something attacking returns. Ozil's been playing well pre-season. Mkhitaryan's been playing well pre-season. So they have the firepower. I think they're still up shit creek at the back, but the firepower means that games where they might have lost 2-1, they'll be able to outscore the opposition 3-2. So I think Arsenal are still going to finish fourth this season.
Arsenal have come out fourth on this. Adam at 352, the correspondent, has done a brilliant tweet today in terms of Pepe's strengths and what it likely means for Arsenal. I'd recommend going to find that on Twitter. I have already retweeted it today. He thinks there's likely to be a movement now. He did it already before this signing to one of two things for Arsenal. Either a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. Now, either one of those potentially means Aubameyang playing in a wide area, possibly. Or obviously, as the focal point, and no Lacazette, possibly. But I think at the moment, you'd probably be looking at it as a 4-3-3 with Lacazette central, Aubameyang just to the left, and Pepe a bit more withdrawn to the right.
I mean, to be honest with you, that's all that happened last season was the hokey-cokey of they two up front. When they played two, Aubameyang pushed out to the left a little bit. Excuse me. But that's no different to last season. It was if you knew Lacazette was going to play 38 games, you'd pick Lacazette at 9.5 million. And we just don't know that at the moment. I'd like to see Lacazette start centrally. Obviously, he's not going to play game week 1 as far as we know right now.
No.
Foot in a boot. He's fit.
He's fine. So he came off injured at the weekend very early in the game, precautionary. Arsenal tweeted about an hour and a half ago that he trained today.
Oh, fine. So his boots off.
So Lacazette is still in my draft at the moment.
Yeah, he's a real good option this year. I think top point scorer for Arsenal this season is going to be Aubameyang.
Yeah, only one vote for Lacazette, all the rest for Aubameyang.
What price do you think? Okay, so is Pepe coming in as a midfielder or a forward, in your opinion?
Oh, I'd not thought of it that way. It must be a midfielder.
Okay, and what price do you think he's coming in at?
I suspect 9.
I would have thought even higher, 9.5 maybe.
No, his numbers are very good. On reflection of all the pricing, a lot of it feels like it's been done based on statistical, like for example Wilson being 0.5 more than Jimenez because his actual points per game is better. I do feel like those sort of things have been looked at slightly, and obviously Pepe's numbers from France, and you have to remember it's France, very good, very good. There's a lot of chatter that some of the numbers are skewed because a lot of them are scored penalties, and you would presume that he wouldn't go in as the automatic penalty choice. But also it's worth noting, the majority of those penalties were won by him as well. Mm-hmm. This guy's fast, links well, he's a good dribbler, not afraid to shoot from range. And I think the balance there for Arsenal's right to sort of match up to a similar formation to how Liverpool currently play, with the three quite tight. For me, that means no place for Ozil in the team, so you can forget that. With probably Ceballos just left of a sitter. There's a number of ways they can go with that sort of Guendouzi, Xhaka, Torreira around that. But Ceballos is good enough to be in that team. If he's going to play in that position, he's probably not a 5.5 answer. But if they play 4-2-3-1, he could play at 10, and then he's very interesting. This guy can strike from range.
I agree, but I don't think...
I mentioned it with...
Ozil's not going to get in the team.
I don't see it.
I think he will. I think when you've got a player of that stature, whether or not he deserves to on ability is a different question.
How long is that stature going to last for him?
I don't know, to be honest with you. But like I said, all the things I've seen pre-season, he's been doing all right. I'm with you. He's a liability. He can be a real liability at times. But I can see Ozil playing. I can really see him playing. Not that he's an FPL consideration for me. But let's see. Who's the best value pick there, though?
Just to close on that, I think the Liverpool comparison, because obviously Maitland-Niles... it's potentially out first day is a problem. But going forward, if they're going to get Tierney, and then when Bellerin's back fit, you can see that support for the fullback areas. And actually deeper into this season, Bellerin particularly could be a really good shout at 5.5. Adam thinks he's the value, for example. Although overall, the vote was actually for Lacazette.
Yeah, Lacazette at 9.5 million is what I would have said. But Bellerin is a very good shout at 5.5 million.
But I mean, that's only 7 of the 23 total.
It was quite spread, was
4 votes for Ceballos, 4 for Holding, and then bits and bobs.
Interesting. Fifth in the league.
Adam particularly thinks watch for Bellerin when he gets back fit.
Fifth in the league. Now, this is where we start to get a little tricky because Manchester United haven't done the most amount of business this summer. Chelsea obviously are not allowed to, although they've got their new manager, and I think that could be galvanising for them.
They are allowed to register players. I mean, technically, they could still register Higuain again if they want.
Right, okay. Leicester have done very good business and are going to be right up there challenging. And I think West Ham have done very good business as well. This is where it gets a little trickier now. I'm going to go with 5th place Chelsea.
It's United.
I don't see it.
Not by a lot. So I just...
If they buy Harry Maguire, I'm a little more convinced because they'll have some strength and depth in defence.
To give you a little perspective, say now the guys have predicted Chelsea for 6th as well. Just to break down some of those numbers a little bit. So 11 of the 22 think Arsenal will finish top 4. Only 4 think United. 5 think Chelsea. But there was a lot more votes for Chelsea to potentially drop out of the top 6 and finish
I see
6th,
more
7th.
Not for me.
Whereas,
I see United more likely to.
I mean, nearly all of United's votes, about 70% of them were to finish 5th.
Who do you think will concede less goals, Chelsea or United?
I'm not sure. Judging by what Ted at Rotation FPL was saying yesterday, he's a Chelsea correspondent, saying about how they were defending Salzburg last night, was basically saying that defensively they were playing like it was optional.
What, defending is optional?
And they won 5-3.
Yeah, fair play, but it's pre-season. They've still got Kepa's still a decent keeper.
Yes.
Azpilicueta, Alonso, Rudiger, David Luiz, Christensen. They've got strength and depth in defence, whereas United don't necessarily have it. They buy Harry Maguire, then they're a little bit more stable. But I can see Chelsea keeping clean sheets, especially with Jorginho and Kante up in front as well. Against some of the lower half-table teams, I think Chelsea will grind out a few more results. United, just you don't know what you're going to get, do you? Look at Ole's first 10 games and the second 10 games. Just you don't know what you're going to get. They haven't strengthened particularly. Okay, Wan-Bissaka's a decent signing and Daniel James is a decent signing, but they're losing Lukaku. There's outside chance Pogba might leave, but I don't know if he will. I see Chelsea.
Well, it looks like Lukaku-Dybala swap hinges on whether if Dybala wants to go or not. If he's happy to go, then that will happen. He'll be a very, very good signing for United. I think Maurizio Sarri needs a drug test for when to swap them to. Dybala's a top talent. How Lukaku works into that Juventus system, that Sarri ball, I have no idea. To tell you the truth, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get that, but anyway, that's not a Premier League concern. I think United will spend. They're certainly targeting. I do think the Maguire deal will happen. I think it'd be massive for Leicester if they keep hold of him. But I do think that will happen.
The closer you get to the deadline, the price just keeps creeping up little by little. It's 90 million now that they're asking.
Well, a little bit. It's saying Leicester put some sort of deadline in, didn't they? But, I mean, if United then come up with the cash,
they'll do it.
Thing is, it's a little bit... If I was a United fan, I'd be a bit frustrated because you would have known from last summer, Mourinho going on like, I need a centre-half. Mm-hmm. That situation has not changed. No. And there's a week to go and I haven't bought one. And that's still an issue. Wan-Bissaka will instantly improve them because he's so good at defending one-on-ones.
Mm-hmm. And top point scorer for United, without a doubt, Paul Pogba. He's on penalties.
That was interesting that you say that. I mean, yeah, it was. Pogba got 19 of the 23 votes. That's massive.
Yeah, there you go. He's on penalties, and when he wants to turn it on, he turns it on. That's the thing. He's a BPS magnet when he does well. So are we
assuming now he's going to stay? Unless, I mean, the only one I could see now is if PSG come up with silly money, if Neymar moves, for example. Are we ignoring Pogba? What's
he, 8.5 million?
Yeah.
It's not a bad price for Paul Pogba. Not a bad price. I'd like to wait and see on United. I'd like to wait and see on the first 3 or 4 games. I want to see how they set up. I want to see where Alexis Sanchez fits into this jigsaw now as well. Because if Alexis Sanchez is playing up front, or even in a number 10 role, I'll take him at 7 million more than I'll take Pogba at 8.5 potentially. So I'd like to wait and see. But I think Alexis Sanchez is definitely one to tip for the value player for Manchester United.
Value vote was Martial.
What's he priced at? 7.5 million?
Now, the thing with Martial is,
Tony.
There's a lot of players at Martial's value who, if you knew they were going to get 90 minutes every week, you would absolutely steam into them. Because when you look at their points per 90, some of them, and Martial is one, off the chart. Like Pedro's another one. His points per 90 are good. You might only get 50 minutes on any week or less, obviously, if he's a substitute. And Martial feels like a gamble at the moment. We don't know if...
I think any United player
because of the Copa America,
maybe Rashford.
Because of the Copa America, we don't really know if Sanchez is going to get integrated back into this team or not. Daniel James has done... I thought he was quite quiet in the game against Spurs, but in the reports from the other games are he's flying. So he could, by all means, get a start on the left. If he's going to get a start on the left, that's going to impact Martial. The other problem is, well, if James is going to be an impact player, and Martial's going to play off that, who's he going to come off? He's going to come off fucking Martial, isn't he?
Exactly.
So these players feel almost avoidable. But if Martial you knew was going to get a run, you would look straight away.
So Chelsea came 6th in our mock table today.
Just interest to add on that as well. Gary is my cap player and doesn't think they'll finish top 4.
He doesn't. Yeah, but we agree. I don't think they will finish top 4 this season. And I could easily see them dropping out of the top 6 if Leicester and West Ham and Everton and so on have a decent season. But let's see.
Ted at Rotation FPL thinks Chelsea will
finish top 4.
Yeah. So just to clarify them, average finishing position from the predictions was Arsenal at 4.86, United at 5.09, and Chelsea at 5.45.
So basically none were in the top 4. If you look at it like that, no one predicts any of them to get in the top.
As I said, so there's only 5 predictions for Chelsea to finish in the top 4. There was 2 predictions each for Chelsea and United to finish outside the top 6, but there were a lot more predictions for Chelsea to finish 6th. I think it's because of the indecisiveness. I see a lot of people on Twitter talking about Chelsea assets at the moment, and the one that's getting real mentions is Barkley, who supposedly is playing really well.
He's flavour of the moment because he scored the other day, and obviously he's a player in the Lampard mould. So is it a case?
6 million.
Is it a case of Lampard as a manager can maybe make Barkley a better player because they play in similar positions? Barkley's always had the talent. There's never been a denying that. 6 million is a good price. I would like to own a Chelsea player this season for a large part of it. I think Chelsea are going to have a good season.
I can guarantee you we will all be owning Chelsea players this season.
And they're priced so well. But maybe the defence is a little expensive. It's in the same tier as City and Liverpool defenders. But the midfielders and attackers, there's definitely value to be had. It's just which one. Barkley could be the breakthrough. We're talking about Pulisic taking over the mantle from Eden Hazard. I'm not saying Barkley's anywhere near Eden Hazard, but someone needs to step up. It may be him ahead of Pulisic. I actually think Pulisic is going to be Chelsea's top point scorer this season, though. I think very tricky, definitely going to play because it's a flagship big signing. I think Pulisic is the one that I would like to go for.
So to highlight the indecisiveness of how people feel about Chelsea at the moment, I think I'll give you another 2 guesses and you won't guess who come out top of that.
Willian?
No.
Pedro?
No.
Giroud?
Keep going.
Tammy Abraham?
No.
Barkley? I don't know.
No.
Kante?
What about defensively?
All right, fair play. I wasn't thinking back there. Azpilicueta?
It is 8, and interestingly, 5 went for Alonso in second.
Goal, Lonzo's back.
Ted has said, like again repeated today, like Emerson defensively is so much better than Alonso, and Emerson should play. I think Alonso, you'd have to know Emerson was out. It's a similar thing. And the problem with Chelsea is the amount of people being considered. And you have to remember, obviously, it's further down. I think the 2 value guys eventually will be Loftus-Cheek and Hudson-Odoi.
Hudson-Odoi and Loftus-Cheek.
And they're obviously both out at the start of the season. Chelsea are on the first 2 Sundays of the season. I suggest for FPL players, sit down, watch them, take it in, and make a decision. And by going, I think the big
first week you get the benefit of watching
United.
The big
decisions are going to be between: do we have a clear answer to who's going to play up front, and are one of these Barkley, Pulisic going to stand out? So if you take an example where I think a lot of the community will start with Fraser, none of that midfield is priced higher than Fraser. Watch the first 2 game weeks, you can make a decision. Mm-hmm. That seems very sensible to be in and around that value to me. So Chelsea players, almost not in consideration for me at the moment. If I had to start with one, I'd go with one of the guys defensively. And judging by what Ted was saying earlier today, like, stay the fuck away is the advice. So to give you an example of that, so when I asked the guys to predict the best value option at Chelsea, the highest votes was for Kepa with 3. There were 2 votes for Giroud, Alonso, Barkley, Mason Mount, Jorginho, Zuma. 1 for Pulisic, Willian, Pedro, Hudson-Odoi, Loftus-Cheek, Abraham, Azpilicueta and David Luiz.
Spread.
15 players.
Spread.
Out of 22 votes, 15 different players were chosen as which one might be the best value. For me, it's an absolute avoid until we know more. And Chelsea as a season could go either way, I think. It could be really good.
So we've got the top 6 nailed. I was toe-to-toe with the correspondence for the top 4, but my United and Chelsea predictions were the other way around.
You did better than you did this time last year, I can say
I
that.
can't even remember last year, to be honest with you, and I'm not going to listen back. I'm going to nail who's going to finish 7th, Leicester City.
Yep.
That wasn't too tricky. They've just
4
bought so well, man.
4 of the correspondents think they'll finish top 6.
I'm in agreement with them, kind of, sort of, but I just want to wait and see.
One of them thinks they'll finish 4th.
Them finishing 4th is very reliant on them keeping Harry Maguire, but they've bought very well this summer. I think Perez adds another dimension up front, which they didn't have before. Okazaki and that were all well and good, but they're not. Perez is a better player than they are. Creatively, they're in a better position with Harvey Barnes is now going to be there for the whole season. Tielemans, he's a solid box-to-box midfielder. Leicester are set up very, very well with a very young, energetic squad. Brendan Rodgers will know what he wants from his team, and I think he'll get a song out of them. I think, Leicester are well set to finish 7th.
Do we know how they're going to set up?
We can kind of take a little bit of hints from what happened at the back end of last season, but I think Leicester are going to be all right. Jamie Vardy's going to be top point scorer again.
Yeah, everyone went for Vardy fairly naturally. The value one's interesting, right? So one of the big debates is Perez, Tielemans, both priced the same, 6.5.
Yeah, and people are chucking Maddison into that trio of a dilemma because there's only half a
But I
million
think those two
well.
is a bigger debate because they're the same price as well.
Correct.
Which one would you favour?
I mean, you know what my answer is going to be. I've been banging on about Perez for every podcast for the last 2-3 episodes. I'm going with Jose Perez because I think he will be an out-of-position forward.
I'd favour Tielemans.
Good for you.
Our Leicester correspondent, Foxy FPL, would favour Tielemans. Well, that's what you went for on the value pick anyway. Do you know how many votes these guys got each to be the best value at Leicester?
12 and 13 to 11, wasn't it?
8 each.
8 each.
Can't split them.
No.
My thoughts on Perez is a couple of things. One, we don't know how they're going to set up yet. And I think if he's going to end up possibly playing on the right of a 4-2-3-1, that's bad in the same way it would be bad for Moura. If it's going to be slightly right on a 4-3-3, or if he's going to play up front in a 4-3-1-2, absolutely fine. I don't know the answers yet. The other thing with Perez, if you think about the attacking talents in that area of obviously Vardy's main man, Maddison I think is going to be really key for Leicester this year. They've got attacking players who can come on and impact a game. Harvey Barnes, Damari Gray, even Albrighton's still knocking about. Who's the first one's going to get hooked when one of them gets brought on?
I don't think you can say it will be Perez necessarily.
But it might be.
There's every chance, but I think that I don't think Leicester went and paid £30 million for a player to leave him on the bench to come on and impact games.
Price is irrelevant now.
But we are getting to that stage where teams do spend 15 or 20 million pounds on a player, like Billing at Bournemouth.
Is it unthinkable?
To come off the bench.
I'll ask you. Is it unthinkable that Leicester start the season without Perez in that 11?
No, it's not unthinkable. It's high. There's a real big risk. So me picking Perez is one of my 4 risky differential picks. Definitely, he fits into that bracket.
I'm just saying it's not a bad pick. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying there's a risk involved that I think a little bit like what you've assumed there. He's cost that much. They won't leave him on the bench. I'm not sure that's the case.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. Of all of the picks in my team, he is a risk. But if he does strike up a partnership with Vardy, everyone's going to be all over that guy. The flip
side, of course,
everyone's
absolutely.
All over that guy.
He's likely to be out of position and playing up. That is the likelihood. And then in which case, he's a great pick. I'm just highlighting that. I think there's a risk, and I think it's probably a lot of people going to make a decision between those two. And I think the choice would quite possibly depend on what type of FPL manager you are.
Correct.
Will influence that. And that's probably why you'd go Perez and I'd go Tielemans.
True.
By the way, I'm probably going neither, to clarify.
Let's talk about 8th in the league, West Ham United. I can see Everton being pimped up there as well, but I don't like their business. I don't like them missing Idrissa Gueye, West Ham. Who did the correspondence go with?
It's Everton.
Ooh.
Every single prediction
Was done before Idrissa Gueye signed for Paris Saint-Germain.
I think we all knew that was happening anyway.
Yeah.
Every single prediction is for Everton to finish between 7th and 10th. There is only one prediction for them to finish 9th, but there is only 3 for them to finish 7th. Every other prediction is for them to finish 8th or 9th.
Okay.
That's where they're at the moment. They feel, it feels like, I do think they're going to buy in the next week. I'm absolutely certain of it.
They've got money.
Yeah, I just... Gay's a big blow. I spoke
Him
about
and Gomez
that
together was such a partnership.
I spoke about that a few weeks ago in terms of when we were talking about Lucas Dean and thinking about the impact of him coming back late from the AFCON.
Yep.
With Senegal getting to the final. So I think he potentially wasn't going to start the season anyway, potentially. That's a massive, massive blow. So at the moment they're sitting there with Delph and Gomez. Both good players.
Yeah,
both
I've got no issue with Delph.
Idrissa Gueye is such an underrated footballer. There's a reason Paris Saint-Germain have gone and bought him. He's properly underrated. Mm-hmm. I was speaking to you, we were talking yesterday, and I was saying like that Leicester year, even when he went down with Villa, his numbers were incredible in terms of the defensive work, interceptions, all the stuff he was getting in.
All that.
But because Kante had the same season with Leicester, he never got spoken about.
No.
Top player, big miss. Everton need a centre-half as well, because they haven't replaced Zuma's obviously back at Chelsea. I think they need depth, potentially in fullback areas, wide areas. It looks like, obviously, I don't know if it's done officially or not, Moise Kean from Juventus.
It's happening, is it?
Yeah,
I thought it was,
I don't know if it's confirmed or not.
32 million.
I'm going to check, actually.
With a buyback.
I think it's that far done that it probably is confirmed, even if it hasn't been.
I saw it announced, and I saw a lot of people jumping on that it was a hoax, and then I saw people jumping on that no, it is going to happen. I didn't see Moise Kean going to Everton, I'll be honest with you.
Well, I'm gonna work on the basis that it is gonna happen anyway. I feel like
it does give him an option.
I'm so out of touch if they've already bought him. It's not official yet.
No. I didn't think it was.
But he is. It's obviously going to affect Calvert-Lewin.
He's a very good player.
I think Calvert-Lewin would probably still start the season. Remember, this fella is 19. He is a monster talent. Not necessarily going to be converted into FPL points, certainly in the first half of the season, when Everton obviously
wait and see.
A great run of fixtures. I think it's bad potentially for Sigurdsson FPL returns. I kind of highlighted last season that the impact of Calvert-Lewin was having a really positive effect on Sigurdsson because of the run into the channels that Calvert-Lewin does, etc. It just brings people into play.
Yep.
Sigurdsson clearly got the most votes to be their top FPL scorer, which is no surprise after obviously making the team of the season last year. 16 of the votes, 6 for Richarlison, 1 for Luca Dean.
Luca Dean is an interesting option. He's probably the best budget.
He was voted the best value, just ahead of Seamus Coleman.
I mean, 6.5 million because of the price differential. People will go with Mustard Coleman. I think Luca Dean is a safer option there for sure. Just
to highlight one, because there was one name from all the tips, and even I myself went, "Who is that?" Shout out to FPL Footballer, our Newcastle correspondent, who shouted Lewis Gibson to be the best value selection at Everton this year. You just pulled a face there, didn't you?
Who's he?
So he's a young centre. I did a bit of research. He's a young centre half who Everton got from Newcastle a couple of years ago, and has been doing very well in pre-season. He scored. I know FFI Test went to the game out in Germany. They played. I think it was against Mainz. Forgive me if that's wrong. He scored as well. Highly rated centre half, and as it stands, there's a potential disrepute charge hanging over Yerry Mina.
Yeah,
he could start the season possibly at 4.5. And FPL Footballer sent me that tip before he had a price. He does now.
Okay,
interesting.
Yeah, there we go.
He obviously knows his backstory a little bit as a Newcastle fan, right?
So,
yeah, Luca Dean just over Coleman. I think both of them are okay shouts. Sean at Spirit Blues went for Dean as his best value tip, and obviously Sigurdsson, top FPL scorer. I feel I need to see what they do at centre half and how they're going to look without Gay to feel any confidence in going in Dean Coleman. I think at the moment, if you're picking them for their attacking returns, which is fine.
So ninth in the league, I would have said Everton. That's going to say... I would have maybe even said Wolves, actually, to be honest.
You know Everton are 8th.
But, yeah, I do on that list. So that list is going to say West Ham.
What, 9th?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Still no. These guys don't know what they're doing, mate.
Mate, you're going to be going still West Ham for a long time. It's only you that think you're any good.
Really?
Wolves 9th, mate.
Okay. Well, that's not a bad shout. The only difficulty with Wolves is Europa League football this year. But Wolves have been picking up players here and there consistently throughout the summer. They've strengthened particularly well. And a few of their loan signings from last season that they turned into permanent signings. I mean, Jimenez was done at the back end of last season, but that kind of thing has really helped them. I want Wolves to do well. I want Wolves to cope with the Europa League and be able to perform in the league because I like them. I like their playing style. Jota's a great pick up front at 6.5 million. But we've seen it how many times with Thursday, Sunday football. Not just for like teams like Burnley or what have you, or Everton. Even top 6 teams like Arsenal struggle with Thursday, Sunday football. So for me...
I spent a long time in it. I am well aware of the problem.
Wolves at 9th for me is... a bit of idealism. I'm happy for them if they do well because nice club, nice team, love the manager, Nuno Espirito Santos. But I don't see it this season. I think it's going to be very tough. If they were to drop out of the Europa League early, then I could potentially see that. But I don't think they will. I think they'll do all right in the Europa League. They've got a good team set up for European football.
I think they are very capable to do very well in that competition.
So I don't know. I'm wait and see on them. The thing is with like the likes of Jota and stuff, 6.5 million. It's not one of your premiums, and it can fit into your differentials or punts pot of 4 or 5 players that we all have. So I'm fine with that.
One of the things we have to remember with Wolves, obviously in these opening 4 games, presuming they do win the games to obviously qualify to Europe, they are starting this season every midweek. Thursday, Sunday, up to the international
They've
break.
played a few competitive games already, which is good.
I don't know if that's competitive necessarily.
Yeah, true. Okay.
With respect, but
competitive in
you know what
comments.
I mean. I mean, they had about 30 shots on goal and they won 2-0 the other day.
Yeah.
Obviously, second leg's right
Tonight.
now. Yeah, probably be finished by the time you listen to this. Just a couple of things to highlight on them. 20 of the correspondents think they'll finish top half still. But none of them...
I'm not averse to that. I would agree with that.
Same as with Everton, none of them think they'll finish top 6.
I agree with that as well.
Bradley does. Now, Bradley's a confident fucker. Parker_Bradley, our Wolves correspondent. He thinks they'll finish 6th ahead of United. And I can understand that thinking a little bit because they played United 3 times last year and were the better side on each occasion, beating them twice and drawing at Old Trafford. So I can see some of the thinking there. I think... if Wolves didn't have Europe this year, the expectation would probably be that they would push Leicester very, very close.
Yep.
But the expectation is because of it, and us looking at them and going, you know, with respect to Burnley, we're looking at Wolves and going, yeah, do you know what? The way they play, everything, they should do well in that competition. And it could be a longer term problem. You know, if Wolves get to, say, the last 8 of the Europa League and finish 11th, 12th, it's all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that could happen.
The thing with Wolves is, I don't know if there's any stats to back this up, but maybe Canal will be on it. But how many clubs have come up from the Championship, finished 6th, 7th, 8th in that space? What's happened to them the season after? Because second season syndrome is very, very difficult.
There is that as well.
Teams will set up differently, a bit more defensively against them. They're a known entity now, whereas they weren't. It's like that season when Leicester won the league. They kept plugging away, and everyone kept saying, it's going to stop soon. Same happened with Wolves last year, even against the top teams. This year is going to be much more difficult because teams will set up differently against them.
And remember, obviously, some of the problems they had in breaking down teams who just sat back. You think of sort of like, the Brighton game in April and some of the games that had to sort of like, lost twice to Huddersfield. They lost at Cardiff. They drew at Fulham. They had some difficulty in some of these games. So that's something to be cautious of. I think Jota is an amazing price. I actually think Jimenez is a great price as well.
Yep.
For me, unfortunately, because of the Europa, I feel like I'm avoiding.
Yeah, same as me. Let's move down the table to
top FPL point tips. All the votes were for Jimenez and Jota, 14 and 9. But the vote for best value was Jota. No player from any team had more votes than Jota to be the best value selection from their club.
No doubt. Goals and assists.
Then Donker, interestingly, only 5.
Yeah, he's a bench fodder.
But what I mean by that is, I thought Dendoncker would probably come out on that because of the 4.5, but people are still going, nah, Jota at 6.5. And interesting, Jimenez, only 1 of those votes. 5 of the votes were for Willy Bolly. Actually interesting. He's nicely priced in the fact that he's less than sort of Johnny and
Doherty and all those
Doherty, not really getting it. I mean, Johnny's price hike's kind of staggering, and I think Doherty's a bit high as well. Bolly at 5 sits there comfortable, doesn't it? And you know they're decent defensively in any game. Yeah.
10th in the table. Based on what you said about West Ham, I'm going to go with Bournemouth.
That's West Ham.
Okay, there we go. Thank you, correspondents, for at least giving us top half.
You had an average finishing position. I know you want this. An average finishing position between all the ranks of 10.09. You couldn't be more fucking mid-table.
Yeah.
That said, 17 of the guys think you'll finish top half.
Yeah, I can see us finishing top half.
4 of them think 8th. There are a couple 13th, 14th, but when I look at the table here, all I see is 10s. Like nearly so many have just voted for you to finish 10th. And I think actually, for those pushing the 6, the 4 that we've mentioned, including yourselves, are the 4 that have the chance. If one of those 6 are going to have a sloppy season or something to really chasing it, I think you can just about be involved in the conversation.
I think we're not far behind Leicester in terms of being able to put... Leicester are better on paper than we are, but the thing that we're lacking strength and depth in only one position, which is up front at the moment. But the rest of the squad are all very settled and look to be playing well. And I think from what I saw at Fulham, it seems like a good vibe within the team. Obviously, getting rid of Marko Nautovic has probably just brought everyone together. But the keeper's good. You can't argue with Fabianski, best keeper outside of the top 6 for sure. Balbuena was a little shaky actually against Fulham, but I'm sure he'll come around. Issa Diop was solid. 2 left backs in Cresswell and Masuaku. 2 right backs, maybe 3 right backs if you include Ben Johnson.
Well, I was going to say, Ben Johnson at 4.0, he's sitting on my bench in my draft at the moment.
Yeah, he's not a bad shout, but I don't think he's going to play. But
No, you were talking with Sham from 2 Guys, 1 Cup, and he is... I mean, I wouldn't take too much notice when me thinks Jack Wilshere's a fucking possibility. But in no seriousness, he rates Johnson. I know you said
he's a good player.
You thought it would be a big risk for him to start against City, didn't you?
Yeah, I think that's just not a risk you don't need to take.
Is Fredericks injured?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. He didn't play. He didn't come on and get it all at Fulham. Zabaleta did, and I don't know about yesterday's game. I didn't see the lineup. I saw the goals, but I didn't see the lineup.
There is one West Ham player who's made himself into your squad, isn't there?
There is.
This is going to take people aback, I think.
Haller is in there at the moment.
So you were that impressed?
I think, yeah, his link-up play, hold-up play, strength, mobile, he's good. I think he'll get as many assists as he will get goals. He set up Lanzini's goal yesterday. He set up 2 goals yesterday and scored one with his noggin.
Who did you play yesterday?
Berlin, Hertha Berlin.
Okay.
5-3-5, so 5-3. 5 different goal scorers. Fornals got off the mark. Lanzini, Haller, Antonio, Diangana. You've got Lanzini, Anderson, and Fornals behind Haller, with Rice and Wilshere behind them, and the depth of Snodgrass, Yarmolenko, Antonio, Chicharito still sitting on the bench. There's goals in this team. I think there's definitely goals in this team. So I think, yeah, I can see it. Haller is in my team at the moment. I don't like starting against City still. I could even downgrade him to Jota still. But I think over the course of the season, when Haller came in at 7.5 million, there were a few eyebrows raised, right?
Everybody thinks it's a bit much.
Yeah, I don't think he will be. Over the course of the season, I think he'll score as many points as Jimenez. That's my prediction.
Really?
Yeah, I do. And I think Lanzini's your best pick out of the 6 the other midfielders. Honestly, I'm putting myself on the line there, right?
Oh, you normally do, mate. It doesn't normally go too well.
I think Haller is going to be an all right. So as long as he stays fit, he's a good all-round player, good striker. I'm impressed with what I've seen so far, even yesterday. So yeah, I think we'll be all right. I think we'll finish higher than 10th.
Just tell the listeners what you told me yesterday about Lanzini.
He was playing centrally
as 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Fornals was to the left. I know on the team sheet against Fulham, Fornals was central and Lanzini left. They did interchange quite a bit from what my eye test was. Lanzini's in the middle. And I think Lanzini, if you look at when he came back from his injury, he was straight back in the team. I think he's a Pellegrini favourite, and I think he is the most likely to get close to Haller as a number 10. So I really think Lanzini's going to play as a number 10. And he's in the mood. I think he's in the mood. He looks to be getting back to his best.
I think
£6.5 million.
Positionally, you're spot on in terms of where he should play. I mean, he's a top talent. Before the injury, Liverpool and others were really looking at him. If he can get up to speed, I think the concern for a lot of people and why he's not getting mentioned at the moment is he did have a run towards the end of the season and there were no returns.
No.
So, and then you look at City opening day. Now, West Ham have a great run basically from game week 2 to 12, I think, basically.
Yep.
And again, that we're all going to watch the opening game, like have a look, see where they're at positionally. It's another one you can drop into them, I think.
Yeah, the prices are very good. Our squad's priced very well. I think Felipe is too expensive, Antonio's a bit too expensive, but Lanzini at 6.5 really is standing out for me at the moment.
Who did the guys vote as your most likely top FPL scorer?
Good question. Because it's all kind of sort of spread out. Maybe Felipe Anderson.
Yeah, 13.
Probably because it's the easy option to go to, but I think Lanzini will outscore him.
And then 7 Haller. So, I mean, that's nearly all the votes between them. There's a couple for Flappy, who was voted as the best value. And there was a vote for Yarmolenko as well. Yarmolenko come out joint second of those for best value as well.
It is interesting how last season we had Anderson as a right footer playing on the left and Snodgrass as a left footer playing on the right.
Yeah, talk about that as well. You said
Yarmolenko is a left footer playing on the right, but then when we lined up against Fulham, Felipe was on the right.
You said Anderson played on the right, yeah.
He is on the right, as a right footer. I don't know how that's going to affect us, but we've got two-footed players on either side. It's interesting.
That's interesting. I would think Anderson on the right is a far less viable FPL shout than if he's on the left.
Yeah. He's going to get less set pieces as well. They're all fighting over the set pieces. Lanzini, Fornals, they're all going to want a bit.
That's true.
A bit of that. So it's going to get spread out. I just think if you want one and you're going to have one, Lanzini's the one to go for.
Okay, interesting.
And yeah, I think defensively, it was a bit of a joke I was making, but I think Diop has grown about 50% in the summer. He's eaten another half a human being or something. But maybe because I'm just much closer up to the pitch at Fulham than I am at bloody London Stadium.
No fucking
That's why
shit.
he looked a bit bigger. But honest to God, he looked big and he ate up everything.
You normally watch the game with a different postcode, mate.
Yeah. I know that's the stick I'm going to get, but that was what I was thinking. Honestly, Diop looks big. And
You do
if
set
he's been
yourself up
working
for
out
the
this
fall.
summer... Yeah, I knew that was the joke, mate. Diop is looking all right. If he was mopping up everything against Fulham, so I'm interested to see how we performed defensively. And we conceded 3 yesterday, but then we had the reserve goalkeeper and makeshift defence.
Yeah,
so.
okay. And that's enough for West Ham.
11th.
Who would be the best of that rest?
From 11th up down.
Yeah.
So you got Palace, Bournemouth, Newcastle. No, not Newcastle. I'm going to go Bournemouth.
Watford.
Yeah, they're a good shout as well.
I think...
Battling Watford, yes. Maybe not the most goals scored, but I think they've got...
The key with Watford will be keeping players fit.
Well, Decore is still there, right?
And I know that goes for a lot of teams, but I do feel particularly for Watford, the first 11 is quite strong. Like, on their day... They'll cause trouble. They're physical with Capu and Decore with Deeney up front.
Why has no one come in for
off.
Decore? He's solid as a rock, and he could be bought for 40, 50, 60 million, maybe.
Yeah.
It was talk at the end of
I
last
like
season.
him. He's a very good player.
I don't know why no one's come in for him. Stephen, we had the long chat with him in the 30 and 30. They are aging, but I like Grazia as a manager, and I think he knows how to get a song out of his team. So yeah, I can see that. I don't know if they'll score as many goals as they did last season. Not that they were prolific, but with Deulofeu up front, maybe. It's very tight to call. I think Watford's not a bad shout. There's no doubt Deulofeu is the highest point scorer from them.
Yeah, Deulofeu 17 of the votes, 2 each for Pereira, Decore and Foster to be their top FPL scorer. 21 of the 22 correspondents think they will finish between 11th and 14th, so their average was actually ranked at 12.04. So essentially, they're stuck in now.
Somewhere in the bottom half.
And probably because of that consistency in the average, that's why they kind of work out 11th. Delafeu was also voted as the best value pick as well. Cathcart came out second, and that's Stephen's tip as best value as Cathcart. He obviously went for Delafeu as predicted to be top FPL point scorer. It was kind of suggesting that in his article we wrote the other day, he was saying like a few people have been asking him about Cathcart and that, and he's saying like, yeah, he'll play, but no. It's basically what he's saying.
Let's rattle through some more of these teams because we've been chatting for a while, mate. 12th, Bournemouth.
Correct.
Top point scorer for Bournemouth is going to be Callum Wilson by a mile. Was it not 22 out of 22, or did Ryan Fraser sneak in?
14 for Wilson, 9 for Fraser.
Okay, so a little bit more of a spread there. I can see that for Ryan Fraser. I think 7.5 million is better value for Ryan Fraser. What bad news for Brooks, eh?
Oh.
What bad news for David Brooks?
Gutted.
Yeah. He'll be back, and he'll be back strong, so that's fine. Kids, when they're like, we know when kids are 11, 12, they heal much quicker than when they're older.
He's kind of had injuries and illnesses growing up. You worry if it's going to become a problem. I really think he's a terrific player, David Brooks. And I think he's one that a lot were looking at 6.5. I mean, and the value for this for Bournemouth, he came out just behind Josh King. And I suspect that's possibly a little bit false because a lot of people have got Josh King in their team and gone, I'll go Josh King.
Yeah.
I think possibly that Brooks would have perhaps offered the better value overall. They have added this afternoon a new winger, Bournemouth, who I don't know anything about, but they brought from the Belgian league, Arnaut Danjuma. Easy for you to say. Obviously got Billing in from Huddersfield as well. It's all about the front three. For me, I think Jack Stacey might turn out to be a hero for someone, but I'm not looking at them defensively. Lloyd Kelly's apparently going to miss the start of the season as well. A few people getting excited about Rico at 4.0. I suggest you don't do that. It's all about Wilson, King, Fraser, isn't it?
Fraser, yeah, for sure.
Most of us are going to start with at least one. Some are going to start with two.
I'm starting with one. Callum Wilson at the moment. Let's see.
I'd like to have Wilson in. At the moment, I think I'm going to start with Fraser only.
Let's see. 13th, Crystal Palace. Are we at 13? We are at 13.
We are at 13.
Crystal Palace?
No, it's the Saints.
Okay. I'm not averse to that as well. I think Hassan Hootel can get a song out of his team. Just from an FPL point of view, they were all $1 million to $500,000 to $1 million too expensive, weren't they?
There are only 7 teams overall to have any tips to get relegated. Bournemouth and Southampton.
Only 7 to get relegated?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bournemouth and Southampton both had 1 predicted relegation each. I don't see either being in any danger.
Probably, if you think about it statistically, as a 5% chance or whatever, it's about right, give or take.
Yeah, it's fair.
They could, if they did self-implode, but I think Southampton, based on the second half of last season, defensively and all the rest of it. I mean, we'd all like a bit of James Ward-Prowse, just too expensive. Redmond, just too expensive. But the one that's getting the attention at Saints now is Che Adams, right? He's been playing well pre-season. He's going to start up top there with Danny Ings or what have you.
Well, another one, we don't really know how they're going to set up. If they start with the 2, it's a negative for those who might have been considering Redmond.
Yeah.
It's potentially not great for Ward-Prowse either, just because it's an extra attacking player in the team.
True, Ward-Prowse does take the set pieces, though.
It's very much more on
delivery good.
last year. Although, didn't we have a stat that he didn't get one single assist last year, didn't we? Which seems absolutely remarkable.
Mad.
I like Che Adams. It's another one I feel like I need to see it.
Yeah, I don't know if we got high on the Southampton Kool-Aid at the back end of last year because of the doubles and blanks and that we could ride through with some of their players and what have you. But I don't know. Southampton, 13, I would have put Palace there ahead of Southampton, especially if they keep Wilf Zaha. But, there's not going to be much in it. Tell me the average rank for Palace and the average rank for Southampton. Southampton
That
was
would be
12?
cheaping.
No, because I'm assuming that Palace are next on the list.
Southampton's average rank was 13.27, Palace 14.86.
Okay, so there's a little bit of difference, 1.5 places between them. Okay, fair play. Next on the list, 14th, Palace?
No. Just to clarify, Redmond, 13 of the votes, top FPL points. Adams voted, it's basically switched the other way around. Adams voted as the best value. I like him. I've said this previously. I'm not going to cover it again. 14th in the voting was Burnley.
Yeah. Defensively, very solid. They've got attacking options in Wood and Barnes and what have you. Dwight McNeil. I would have liked Dwight McNeil to come in at 5 or 5.5 million this year. 6.5 million is a lot for that player. Albeit he did get good attacking returns. If Burnley start playing well,
He's got good attacking returns of 4.5 million midfielder.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's too expensive at where he is, but he'll be good for the team, right? DJ Tim Westwood's going to be knocking out the assists as well, hopefully. So
as long as he's not knocking anything else out.
Nah, so I don't know. Yeah, Burnley. I could see Burnley being as high as 14th. One thing you'll know is without Europa League defensively, there could be some good assets to be had there. Gibson was the one that was flavour of the month for a little while.
Well, obviously,
now that Heaton's gone
to Villa.
So Pope is a consideration.
Yeah, but he's had an injury niggle. It's a little concerning. The opening run, and with keepers, you're probably looking a bit further afield than a wild card, just in case, maybe. Their opening run over an extended period is not too bad, and we've seen historically with Burnley keepers that even like Joe Hart was a fucking disaster, but his FPL returns were
was amazing.
Okay,
right? Second highest saves
he was making a number of saves. At the moment, I would assume unless there's movement on Maguire, that Tarkowski and Ben Mee will still be there, which would rule out Gibson as the 4 as well. Just on that, there isn't one becoming obvious. I know people are going to be shouting at Lundstrom. Read Tomo's article yesterday, FPL Blade, on Lundstrom. Like, there isn't an obvious 4.0. He did cover other Sheffield United players, by the way. Ashley Barnes come out quite clearly, sort of double the votes over Chris Woods to be the top FPL point scorer from them. Value-wise, it was Pope by a distance. Jack, Turfy Topper, shouted out Charlie Taylor as the value one. We've mentioned a few times at left back.
Yeah.
Probably have a better season. Only 2 votes to go down for Burnley. The majority of people think they will be just above the bottom 6.
Mm-hmm. That was 15th, right?
That was 14th.
So we've still
Palace
got 16th
Palace
to go.
are in 15th.
So we're left with the 3 promoted sides: Crystal Palace, Brighton and Hove Albion, and Newcastle United.
Now, Palace is very up in the air, mainly because of Zaha. We don't know what's happened. There's also been Migtavius links in something that's when that Lazio have been linked to a bid for Milivojevic as well.
Okay.
I mean, they could get fucking... If suddenly those 2 went, you are looking at them and going, oh, fuck, that's a massive, massive problem. And I think if Zaha goes, it is anyway, because for them to find the replacement now will be way too difficult. Although, with Everton seemingly having said that they won't be going in again, and Arsenal obviously having bought Pepe now, it looks like he's marooned there and stayed there. I wouldn't be surprised. This is just a thought. Spurs have been looking for similar type of players. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a late bid.
Interesting.
Bearing in mind he did come out a couple of months ago. Didn't his brother go, Arsenal's his love and all that shit?
Yeah. Someone will find a picture of him when he was 7 years old in a Spurs shirt.
If you want to link 2+2, there might be something in that. I don't see that. I'm not overly keen on getting... I don't think it's a position we're desperate to improve on, to be honest, with Son Lucas and that. Yeah, I wouldn't not take him, but I'm not desperate to have it. The voting in terms of who would be their best FPL scorer, I think very much skewed by the fact that when these votes were done, most people thought Zaha was going to go. So Milivojevic got the most with Zaha.
Yeah,
just
I don't know.
behind. So I think that's
Townsend
skewed.
is not a bad shot.
Well, Townsend
either.
was voted the best value, but then if Zaha stays, it's Zaha all the way, isn't it?
Correct.
Interestingly, despite coming out on this 15th, there wasn't a single vote for them to get relegated.
Okay, fair play. Followed by 16th on the table. Now we're getting into 16th, 17th. So I think...
This is where some people, and some of our correspondents even, are about to get really fucking upset.
I'm going to go with Aston Villa.
It is. Villa, 16th, yeah.
Aston Villa. £107 million is a fair amount of money to spend. Just before we get into Villa, breaking news, which is not very breaking, but it's just come through to me on my phone. Harry Maguire has been left out of Leicester's squad for the Friday friendly, as Manchester United tried to complete his move before the weekend. We already knew that was going to happen.
Anyway, I think we suspect it will.
£90 million.
Villa. Now
that's Villa's whole transfer budget. And Harry Maguire, all of a sudden, they've been buying players slow and steady.
Mr. Hopcroft has said he's going to write something between now and the opening about why Villa are not about to do a Fulham. I can see why a lot of people think that they are. They have bought now. There's been more bought today. Bought some fucker called Marvellous Nakamba. No one knows if he is or he isn't. But he's got a great name. So they've now got a Marvellous and a Wesley. They've bought 12 fucking players, mate.
Yeah, if you listen back to the 30 and 30 with Adam, he
did say it would happen, basically.
He said that the structure of the club was good and that they had the director of football, and the way that they were going about doing their business was different to how it had been in the past. So you got to put a little bit of faith into that and say, yeah, maybe it will come good.
They have added additions, basically, in every position.
Mm-hmm.
Every position, basically.
And then McGinn goes and scores a goal like he did in the pre-season, and everyone's like, right, jumping on that. That's a real bandwagon move. Not that he's not a bad player or a bad pick, but jumping on him is going to be a real bandwagon move at the moment.
I mean, they're avoidable. I mean, it's obviously a difficult.
They're avoidable,
some would
but
say
there is
first
also
game.
value in there as well. Grealish at $6 million.
There might
good.
be. I mean, for the I said we wouldn't talk about Sky on this game, but if Gilbert at 4.5 starts, he's in everyone's Sky team. We'll cover that on YouTube tomorrow. Wesley came out as the guy.
I was going to say Wesley's top point scorer for sure.
7 votes for Grealish. I think a lot of that is people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Best value vote actually was Gilbert with 8 of the votes.
Mm-hmm.
How they're going to start up, how they're going to line up, who's going to play where, what formation. I mean, Adam will know far better than us in terms of how they'll probably, I think they're normally a back four. I certainly were in the playoff final that I watched and the semi-final. But how are they going to start? I mean, you can say, yeah, Grealish will play, McGinn will play. Some of the wide area options now, I don't know. Does Douglas Luiz very quietly coming from Man City? Is he the sitting player now? Mm-hmm. They bought a few centre-halves. We assume Mings would be the first choice. I really don't know which one's going to play with him. I guess Target will play left back. You've got Hotter, El Ghazi have bought another one. I think this fellow who's Marvellous. I think he might be a wide player, but I don't even know. Stay away from me because it's just unknown. That said, I've put one in my squad.
Who have you got in at the moment?
I'll put Tom Heaton in.
Okay.
I actually put him in yesterday once I heard it was on.
Yep.
Clarity for me. And their opening set of run, I'm thinking more further ahead than an early wild card. And I can leave that. That's all right. Tom Heaton's a good goalkeeper.
We're down to number 17, 17th in the league. And this is the one where I'm going to upset a few people.
I think this is going to be the one that's going to surprise you more than any other.
Brighton and Hove Albion.
He's Brighton, yeah.
Brighton and Hove Albion. And I'm basing that completely on pre-season form and what Seagull's been saying. Sam.
Trossard's actually sitting in my squad at the moment.
Yes.
Basically, as a wild card pick.
If Lewis Dunk doesn't leave and Duffy and Duncan, the centre-backs there, I think, I'm seeing potential there. Man, child, can't get water, could I?
Yeah, I have some water. He's in the middle of the podcast. I will have some of that. Dickhead.
Yeah, it's right. He's going to just pick me up
Right, man, child.
cup of water.
We've done...
Have you picked your team yet?
No, I don't know how to. I can't get
You did it last year.
No.
You picked a team last year.
Right.
I don't know how
This
to. It's not a
podcast is
good
already
answer.
really long. Let's cut that. I'll help you with your team later.
No, because they asked me to join a league, and I don't know.
All
what
right,
to
well,
join.
I'll help you with the
We're in the Premier League, mate. You'll
I'll
be
give
fine
you the
with that.
codes for the
The
leagues.
whole thing is the Premier League.
Yeah, don't take me seriously. I'm going with Brighton.
Brighton 17th.
Top point scorer is not going to be Glendo Murray. I think Trossard, actually, based on what we've seen pre-season.
Nah, Pascal Gross had half the votes.
Oh, okay, so 50-50 split, though, between the two of them.
0.5 more than Trossard, isn't
Yeah.
he? I'm not keen on going with new signs. I've just put him there for the minute. I actually don't fucking like anybody valued at 6 million as a midfielder. I've put him there at the moment with 0.5 in the bank. Just while I wait for more news on the port. Ryan voted best value, which is not a surprise considering his ownership as well, and a lot of looking at going this Ryan Button double up. The opening fixtures are fine. Trossard had 3 assists at Birmingham last week in a 4-0 win. Brighton haven't scored 4 goals in a game since 1984, so that's quite impressive. That's not real. It's just, I made that up.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It's obviously not true. I thought they'd be a stick-on from the correspondents to get relegated, actually.
I was really negative about them until pre-season started, which goes to show you can't really tell shit until
you can't read too much
players get out onto the pitch, to be honest with you.
I think...
But it's more the formation, what Sam's been tweeting about the performances, and that Potter knows what he's trying to get out of them.
There might be a movement to a 3-4-3. I don't know if that's good for Duffy and Dunk and Brighton defensively, by the way, with the idea being potentially with Bernardo, who Sam talked up when he came on 30 and 30 as being the left-sided centre-half, potentially. I presume then, Duffy, Dunk, I'm not sure which one would be central, which one would be right, but I thought probably Dunk would be the more natural on the ball to play right. And then playing with wide players, like genuinely going 3-4-3 with sort of Trossard and Gross behind a front man. I know obviously on Tom and Nick's pod, they were talking about, don't overlook Murray because of his numbers. You've got to feel that's going to decline at some stage, don't you?
Yeah, well,
I'm not looking at that.
Maybe when he's 40.
But Trossard, over the next few days, is a player I'm really going to delve into some information on.
So let's get into the relegation zone now.
Which means we know who's going down, according to the guys.
Because we've been talking for a while, we're coming up to 90 minutes soon. Let's clump them the 3 together. So you're left with Newcastle, Sheffield United, and Norwich. You could make a case for any one of those 3 to actually stay up. Sheffield United, the thing with promoted sides that is more important than anything else is being able to keep a clean sheet against the teams in and around you. And Sheffield United are the best place to be able to do that. Newcastle have Premier League experience and have just chucked in a £40 million striker. We don't know if he's going to be any good, but they do have experienced players in Matt Ritchie and Longstaff and Shah. Dubravka's a good goalkeeper. They're not the best, but they can do a job. And then Norwich are free-flowing. They've got tons of Germans in their team, and Germans are very efficient. There's an argument for any one of them to actually stay up and not get relegated. And this is not me being nice to those teams just because they're at risk. They're going to be in the bottom 5 or 6. But I'm not comfortable saying Sheffield United will go down. I'm not comfortable saying Norwich will go down. And I'm not comfortable saying Newcastle will go down.
Neither am I.
This is going to be one of the best seasons.
It is so up in the air. I mean, for example, if Zaha and Milivojevic did leave Palace, I think they'll go down.
Then they're going to struggle, for sure.
Newcastle, suddenly from nowhere, spent 40 million on a centre forward. Now, what he can or can't do is going to have a major impact on their season. I've heard Matt Ritchie might have picked up a hamstring injury the other night at Hibernian as well, which is a blow because he gives real decent balance for them on the left side. And obviously the appointment of Bruce is so fucking uninspiring.
Yeah, but he's not stupid, is he?
No correspondent predicted their team to finish lower than FPL Footballer predicted his zone.
That's 20th.
No, he predicted 16th.
Okay.
This is why I took out their own predictions out.
Si, come on. I'm with you. I hope you don't go down because we need the Geordies in the league. But I could see them staying up just as well. Like Lascelles hasn't turned into a bad player. They've got defenders that can defend.
I really think Sheffield United will stay up.
I do as well. Ahead of Villa? Ahead of Brighton?
I don't know. I think that's such a tough call this year. It really is. I actually think the points totals of relegation has been really low the last few years. And it might still be, but I think it's going to be a lot closer. Because I just don't think there's a lot. Last year we sat here and it was like everybody had Cardiff bottom. And
Huddersfield going down. Fulham going down.
Everybody voted Cardiff down. And everybody voted Huddersfield basically as well. And then it was quite split. Now, the predictions on this, there's 15 votes for Newcastle to go down and 17 each for Norwich and Sheffield United. Norwich come out bottom on this. Newcastle 18th, Sheffield United 19th, which is a lot. But I think that's partly because, like what we said earlier, we see Burnley improving. We see Southampton improving. If Zaha stays at Palace, he'll kick them up on his own.
If he stays fit for the season.
So Potter at Brighton's a bit of an unknown. We don't know how that's going to work. And you're looking at the others down there, sort of like Watford, Bournemouth and that. You just feel like they're going to be all right. And Villa have bought so many players, it's an unknown. Villa could go either way. Villa it feels now, could finish 12th or 20th.
Yep.
So real open at the moment. Just to cover off some of the votes from the guys. So Pookie, clearly the highest voted for Norwich, had 19 of the votes to be their top FPL scorer.
Sheffield United.
Max Aarons was the most on value. For Sheffield United, there was a massive split. And I think that's because a lot of people just don't know. Sharp and Henderson came out with 5 each. A lot of these votes came back in before Henderson was confirmed. So I think Henderson would have come out top of that.
And he'd probably be the best value pick as well, truth be told.
Best value was split between Norwood and Lundstrom. At Newcastle, the most votes were for, now we think, injured Matt Ritchie, believe it or not, with 11 of the votes. Then Joe Linton and Dubravka shared each with 4. And the best value pick was an old friend of ours, Jamal Lascelles.
Big Mac himself.
Who, but a difficult start for Newcastle again, as it seems like it is for them every year, with obviously starting with Arsenal opening day. I think the relegation battle is so tough to call this year.
Very, very difficult.
I think those guys at the bottom, I still think there's a little bit value in Norwich. You got to avoid early because it's a really difficult start. Newcastle's a difficult start. Sheffield United you can look at. I think the attacking areas have become really muddied now with the apparently buying McBurney. They've bought Robinson. They bought Mousse.
Almost too many.
It feels a bit like that. We've got Morrison, who's going to be an attacking player as well.
Yeah, classified as a midfielder at the moment, though, right?
They might find they might need a bit more depth defensively, but the back three, essentially, they have now, and obviously Ender Stevens very good at left wing back, might be absolutely fine. But I don't think I can be looking at these guys. And in terms of that bottom 6 as an overall, if you include Villa, Brighton, Palace, I don't really want any of them to start. Like I said, Trossard's in there kind of a wild card shout at the moment, but I need to look into him.
There's better value elsewhere, possibly, maybe. Cool, let's look at some of the other stats.
Before we finish...
Before we get to extra time and fucking penalties.
I asked the guys any position to rate who they thought would be the highest FPL point scorer. Prices of 7.57, 6.56 and 5.5.
Every single price point.
No. Not every, just those 5 price points.
Okay, yeah.
There's a reason why I did that, and that's because obviously at 7.5 there's no defenders, and then it drops into them. I wasn't going to bore the guys shitless with voting for their best 5 and 4.5. But it did throw up some interesting stuff. So who do you think the guys went for to be...
Ryan Fraser.
It was, yeah. Got 9 of the votes. Martial 5, Jimenez 4, Lucas Moore 3. There were 2 votes for Pulisic.
I think Ryan Fraser's consistency is the one.
The only correspondent who voted for one of their own is my cat player and voted for Martial Fraser. I think there's an influence that on the opening start as well. Mm-hmm. So people, when they're looking at this, do think, he's a good pick at the start.
7 million.
Drop in, right? And now we've got people like Zaha in here.
7 million, I would have said Zaha.
Are you mad?
Who else is 7 million? Sorry, defenders drop in now. All of a sudden. Sorry. My bad. Trent Alexander-Arnold. Closely followed by Robertson.
All the votes between the two of them. Nobody else.
Okay.
16 for TAA, 7 for Robertson.
Makes sense.
Moving on to 6.5.
Now it was getting a little trickier. I'm going to go with Van Dijk.
16 of the votes.
Closely followed by Jota.
No. The only other... Van Dijk got 16 of the 23 votes. The only other one who got more than one was Laporte with 4. I thought Laporte might have got a bit more on that.
Well, I mean, what's a good points total for a defender? 180, 190 points? Jota to get 180, 190 points as a striker.
180, 190 points for a defender is not a good total. That's a great total. What the guys did last year is like nearly unheard of. Phenomenal.
Okay,
if
so
they hit 180, 190, that's fine.
I think Jota could easily have a 160, 170
Of course he
season.
can. Jota got one of the votes. There was a vote for Chris Wood.
Who was that? Turfy Topper?
No, it wasn't actually. It was 6th goal went for Chris Wood. Mark FPL Badger, our Norwich correspondent, went for Pookie. Moving on to 6 million.
Now we're getting into slightly different. It's a little more difficult here at 6 million. I'm gonna say it's gonna be a defender. Let's go with Carl. I was gonna say Carl Walker, and I'm gonna stick with Carl Walker.
There wasn't a single vote for Carl Walker. There were.
Okay, sorry. Back to the drawing board. Alisson.
Yeah, there were, but nearly half of the votes were for either Alisson or Ederson. Really interesting that people still, although we keep dismissing it, Alisson came out the most, only with 7.
Ederson still ain't got in my
but
draft.
we
mate.
dismiss Alisson. But a lot of people, if you're just looking at it individually at that price, yes, of course he does. If suddenly, I don't know, there's so many other great options like Dean, Doherty, Louise, and you stick all these guys in, and you only want a TAA, for example. Yeah, you could look at Alisson. 7 votes for Alisson, 4 for Ederson, 6 for Luca Dean. Was the only other one who got serious numbers. 2 votes for Azpilicueta, 1 for David Luiz, 1 for Doherty, 1 for Jack Grealish, Adam Hopcroft, you've been caught, and 1 for Dwight McNeil at Turfy Topper, you've been caught.
I thought he was 6.5. Dwight McNeil. Is he 6 million?
6, yeah.
Okay, there we go.
5.5, last one.
Oh, 5.5 is going to be a defender. Zinchenko. Midfielders. I'm going to go the Ceballos.
I'm gonna cut you off. This is
Ceballos.
so tough. Nobody got more than 3 votes.
Fuck. Okay.
Now, but the names are interesting. 3 votes for Pickford, Loris,
Okay, keeper.
and Seamus Coleman.
Okay.
2 votes for Wan-Bissaka and David De Gea. And then there was a vote each for Stones, Chilwell, Ben Davis, Alderweireld, Zinchenko, Richie, Kepa, randomly Muto at Newcastle, and also 3-5 Who, you've been caught, Hector Bellerin, and FPL Blade, you've been caught, Callum Robinson.
Interesting spread of players there.
they're
That
nearly-
potentially nice gives people a nice list of differentials to think
Nearly
about.
all, even at 5.5, nearly all defensive.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not there in the attacking at 5.5, 6. There's just not anything there attacking wise for me. There are at 6.5, but you can't argue with the value of like Laporte's and Van Dijk's. And at 7, TAA and Robertson just trump them all.
Exactly.
Top goal scorer. And this is not top point scorer. This is who will win the Golden Boot. Who did the guys go for?
Harry Kane.
No.
Mo Salah.
Yes. 11 of the votes for Salah, 8 for Harry Kane, 4 for Aubameyang, none for Sterling or Aguero.
No City players. The team that scored over 100 goals 2 years in a row hasn't got anyone in the running for the Golden Boot. Madness.
Who did they vote for top assister?
Kevin De Bruyne.
By a distance at 13 of the votes. 4 here for Raheem Sterling, 4 for TAA, 1 each for Ericsson and Bernardo Silva. Sack race. Now, this is difficult this year because of kind of what we just spoke about in terms of who do we think is going to go down such a tough call. Who do you think would be first manager to get sacked? It's so tough.
I would almost have said Bruce, but Ashley doesn't sack people. He can't be asked. He's too lazy to find another manager. He just let things rumble along. So I'm going to go with Roy Hodgson.
Steve Bruce had the most votes with 8.
No, when does Mike Ashley sack a manager? He doesn't. He just rides it out. He's too lazy to. He doesn't give a shit what the fans think, and he doesn't really care. As long as they stay in the league, he doesn't really care. As long as he's making a profit at the end of the year, he doesn't care. He's got Steve Bruce for a reason, because Steve Bruce is.
I think one of the reasons he's got that vote is because this is so tough to call. I think like if
Potter
Brighton
could have been there. I think Roy Hodgson, because Roy Hodgson is going to get all of the stigma that's attached with Roy Hodgson as being just an old man, and all of the England stuff will come back if Palace don't start doing well, and he's going to be, and it's going to be.
But I think importantly, he's got the support of the fans down now.
For now, but they lose Zaha, lose Milivojevic, and start losing games.
Well,
and don't score
at
any
the
goals.
moment, we'll have to assume they're staying, and I think it's beginning to look more and more likely that Zaha will stay.
Correct. No one's
He
coming
came
in.
out third, Hodgson. There were 3 votes for him. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came out second with 4 of the votes.
So no one knows is what you're saying, really.
There was only one other person who came up with more than 1 vote, and it's actually who I would have gone for. And I know this won't go down with quite a few, but I'd have gone for Dean Smith. And the only reason I'd have gone for that, it's not because I think he's a bad manager. I would just take the look at it that go, they've spent a fucking fortune, and if they start badly, they might just change it. They might just look at it and go, he's unproven at this level. We'll change it.
And what? Promote John Terry? I don't think that's going to happen.
I think there's every chance we could get to Christmas and no one's been sacked.
Yeah. Imagine that, though. That would be mad.
Well, it was later and later last year. It was like November, the first one.
Yeah.
There was 1 vote each for Good Ebening, Unai Emery, Javi Gracia, Eddie Howe, Harry Potter, Daniel Fuke, and Chris Wilder.
Okay.
There were none for Manuel Pellegrini.
No, I don't think he's going to get sacked next season.
I also asked the guys, interestingly, I assume this would be a landslide, and it's the only reason why I asked it. I asked the guys who they thought would score the most goals this season of teams other than from outside the Big Six.
Most goals or player? Team?
Most as a team. 16 went for Leicester out of the 23. But interestingly, not defensively, Everton, pre-Idrissa Gueye sale, came out with the most with 9, and Leicester with 7. I found that interesting. I think that's a little bit of a stigma with Rodgers, and they're going to be attacking, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's why you want to look at the guys up front. To go back on what I said earlier, I don't think going for Ayoze Perez is a bad pick. I just think you need to know what you're getting into potentially.
Yeah,
and you might be getting into a good thing.
It's a gamble that I like at the moment. So there we go. That was a ton of data. So if you've been listening to the podcast thinking, I can't be bothered to rewind and listen to this again, this spreadsheet will go up on the website, James. If you send me the data, I'll publish it.
All right, cool. There's a lot of the correspondents are going to kill each other. I feel like Tomo, particularly, he's already after a few names. Once he sees some of the guys who's voted
Tomo,
them to come 20th.
You don't need to be like Chris Wilder. Just because your manager's a nutter doesn't mean you have to be a nutter. But you know what? It's a long flight over to come over and actually physically get after people. So I think we're safe at the moment.
That's the only reason we think they stay up. We're worried about Tomo.
Tomo, if you come over to Planet FPL Live 2, then we'll make it happen. We'll get all the other correspondence that you want there.
Tell the guys about Planet FPL Live 2.
Bank holiday weekend in August, the 24th, which is a Saturday, from kind of 12:30 onwards, is Planet FPL Live 2. 12:30 kickoff. Norwich are hosting Chelsea. That'll be live on the TV screens in Holborn in London, followed by 3 till 4:30. You've got James and I hosting a live recording of a podcast whilst the 3 o'clock matches are taking place. So we'll be like Jeff and the boys, won't we, with the screens on and the scores going on and the points being tallied up. And then 5:30 we have Liverpool versus Arsenal at Anfield, which is going to be televised. So it's going to be a day of FPL fun. Sold a bunch of tickets. We're hoping there's going to be at least 50, 60 people in the venue. So yeah, it's going to be wicked. £5 to get in, but that gets you a free drink on arrival, awesome chips. And that's about it.
Boom. If you want tickets, let me know. It's been tweeted, as has a long thread that I tweeted yesterday about YouTube content that starts this Friday. We will be providing YouTube exclusive content. It will be short form every working day. Yeah,
we will. Starts tomorrow with Sky Fantasy Football.
Boom.
So do tune in to the YouTube channel.
I could spend another 20 minutes, half hour telling you what we're going to do, but actually don't. Just subscribe and tune in.
Exactly. Anything else to add to that, James?
No, in fairness, we've gone on quite a bit on this one.
Yeah, I think it has dragged on. Guys, if you are interested in all of that data, give us a day or so, and it's going to be up on the website in a format that you can digest. But stay tuned. We're getting close to game time now with the season. We'll be back next week with the dead teams, differential teams, and all of that kind of stuff. And also FPL Daily on YouTube.
Boom.
Ciao for now.
Cue music, man, child.
Messi, ancora Messi, ancora Messi, ancora Messi, ancora Messi, ancora Messi, ancora Messi.